wait just a second while Addie rounds everybody up. Bow with me. Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for this day and for the time to be together today, and we're grateful for Mike and his willingness to be here and to share his experiences with us. And we would ask that you would help us, Father, to take what we learn from these lessons this weekend to be able to minister to our friends and our neighbors around us, to help us to ease their burdens, and also, Father, to ease our own burdens as we may encounter loss, Father. But again, help us to reach out and minister to those about us. It's in the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Okay, hopefully that presentation wasn't too depressing, was it? Is it okay? All right. These presentations, I know I overuse PowerPoints, but those are actually for me. They have saved my career. I can't read that, so I can't read my notes anymore. So these are my notes. So these remind me of what to say next. So I overuse them, but I want you to know that's the purpose. It helps me. But even though I try to have everything somewhat organized, I will always forget something. So I will probably, throughout these lessons this weekend, I'll go, oh, I forgot to say this about depression. Or tomorrow I'll say, oh, I forgot to say this about grief. Because this one on grief, I haven't given it a whole lot of times. I still haven't worked it out exactly how I would like it. But I shouldn't have said that because you're probably not going to be able to tell the difference anyway. So that's stupid when a speaker does that. So grief is a weird deal. It's similar to depression, but and initially it does feel the same. But it's not. It's not the same thing. And to illustrate, when I lost Lisa, just an unbelievable, devastating event that's 7 years this July 12th, my depression was worse than losing her. Because in depression, I had no hope. With losing her, I know she's okay. But that's a weird deal to say. And I would have never thought that before I understood depression. Here's one thing I forgot about on depression. If you haven't been through it, just please be sensitive to those that do go through it. Be grateful, but don't be ignorant, and learn about it. All right, grief. Man who is born of a woman is full of days and full of trouble. Job, it basically said, we're down here a little while and it's just rotten. Basically what he was saying. Had I heard that verse in the first 40 some odd years of my life, I'd have gone, bless Job's heart. Man, I don't feel that way. I wasn't even that really looking forward to heaven that much. I was glad I'm going to go there one day, but it's kind of like, I'm kind of having heaven down here. I'm having a great time. And then 2004 came, and then I lose Lisa, and it's like, all right, we're ready to wrap this up. You know, we Let's end it right now. I'm about ready to go here. This verse reminds me of my in-laws, Lisa's parents. They had these 4 girls. Pam, shortly after she had her first baby, her and her husband were pulling out onto a road, and she had briefly unbuckled her seatbelt to adjust her baby, and they got hit, and she lost all her memory. If you've seen the movie The Vow, it's kind of like that. In The Vow, which is a true story, I mean, they did it differently. It's Hollywood, but the girl lost her memory from the last 5 years of her life. She lost from meeting her fiance, who became her husband. Pam, all the way back. Had to learn how to walk, talk, and lost everything. If you talk to her today, you wouldn't be able to tell anything's wrong with her, but she lost everything. Christy was a nurse, and she got addicted to painkillers, and we thought we were going to lose her, but she came back. Then my in-laws lost Lisa, and then 2 years ago they lost Sheila. Sheila's the oldest. Sheila died from a disease I can't say the name of, but the best way to describe it, it is a combination of ALS and Alzheimer's. Your body and brain both go out at the same time. And she was done in like 4 months. So, for some people, that's it. Grief is where a lot of times we will get mad at God, and we will always probably go through, or all of us will probably go through a point like, why is God letting me down? Because I have studied Christian evidences since I was in my 20s, I have zero doubts that God's out there. Have you walked outside lately? Mountains, trees, people, Matt getting dressed by himself is a miracle. You know, things like that. What a wonder of nature. I've never doubted there's a God. I've been ticked at Him. When I was in my depression, I never cussed God, but I would scream at Him. I would have hated for you to hear my prayers. They were fervent. They were emotional. But they were basically me hollering at Him, why are you letting me do this? I tried not to do it when Lisa was around. But when she wasn't in the house, I was truly mentally ill. I would pace back and forth hollering at Him. Because I knew He was there. My tragedies didn't make me go, you know, evolution is true. This is an accident here. I just never went there. I don't think you can go there. But we will question God. And keep this in mind, the greater the love, the greater the loss when you do lose them. Why would God let this stuff happen? I want you to know, though, that grief is not just about losing a loved one. It can be an unfulfilled dream. It could be unable to have a baby, never getting married. It could be when your child leaves and goes to college, you're an empty nester. It could be, you know, when you are an empty nester and you think, oh, this is horrible, and then they come back and you realize, oh, this is worse. So there's all kinds of grief. Divorce, your home burned down and you lose all of those memories. So there's all types of loss. So, you know, when Jacob was afraid to go see his brother, after 22 years, remember, he's the one that ripped his brother off, lied to the daddy, lied to his brother. And Jacob's headed back, and he's left alone. He's praying to God, and he's in a wrestling match. And it happens to be with God. We're kind of told it was an angel and God, and so that's, you know, he wrestled with God. You're going to wrestle with God. And I feel like my schedule with wrestling with God, I feel like we have a wrestling match about 365 times a year. Okay? I used to not feel that way. It's constant wrestling. This is a picture, there on the left is our little bitty home that I grew up in for a long time. When I was in high school, when I was 18, 19 years old, I was cutting the yard on a riding lawnmower. And right here you can see this is kind of like a grass sidewalk. It's about that wide. And I was cutting that, and I was turning the lawnmower around in that small space. And just as I backed up a couple of feet to turn and come back this way, the brakes went out. So I'm going backwards over the slope on a riding lawnmower. Okay? So it's going into this position. And I'm tossed off. I didn't have a shirt on, and I landed in a thorn bush. But I didn't notice it. I didn't notice the pain because the lawnmower was continuing to come down toward me. So the thorn sticking into my body, I did not even feel that, because there's a lawnmower that I think if it takes one flip and turns, then I'm going to get a real close haircut here. Just as it's about to fall on me, it's almost like God grew these two thin trees, and it caught right there. It caught the mower perfectly. And the mower is up on its end like that. I'm laying in this thorn bush and just looking at this lawnmower. It's still going, still on. And I realized I'm going to make it. So I pulled myself out of the thorns, finally got it turned off, pushed back up, and I was okay. And I thanked God so many times. It's just like they're perfect. It's like God said, we need to grow those two. McPherson's going to be an idiot one day, so we're going to help him out. So we fast forward to 2015 in the summer. The previous year, this kid, Mickey Martin, was a great all-district point guard for us. He had finished his sophomore year, and he became real famous. We were in an elimination regional game, and we were down by 1 with 4 seconds left, and he pulled off just this miracle play. And we sent that whole town home really mad, and pretty good feeling. And that summer he went on a mission trip to Mexico. So in July, the football team's having 2-a-days, 2 practices a day. And he's got a couple of friends in his Jeep. They're going home. A mile from his house, he fell asleep. He ran off the road, and there was this tree that they were going by. And Mickey's window was down. And they went right by that tree, and his head, as he's been thrown back and forth, hit the tree and killed him. And we lost him at the end of his sophomore year. Had that tree grown just a few feet over, they'd have hit it head on, and probably nothing would have happened. If the tree had grown a foot farther to the left, his head would have probably gone out the window and not hit anything. Why did I get, my trees were perfect. Why did he get the tragically perfect tree? It has just about driven me nuts. Why? When I got my perfect trees, I was just a little bit older than him. I got to grow up and live. And here he is just starting his life out. We never got to see how great he was going to be in the next 2 years. And it has just about driven me nuts, and still does. I still don't get it. A few years earlier, his dad had been killed in a motorcycle accident. And then a couple of years after this, his mother died. And they just had that continual tragedy. We had a grief speaker come out and talk to us about grief, came out to our whole school that fall. His name was Bill McDonald. He ran a funeral home. And Bill, this is him back in the 70s when he got married. Bill became a grief counselor and a funeral director. And this is him on the left. And his brother on the right died suddenly as a child. I forgot exactly what the ailment was, just something that came over him and his heart stopped. And so he ended up becoming a grief counselor and talking to people about that. And he talked about how little things will trigger the grief. And I'm going to kind of go through some of those and how that works, and to kind of be ready to for that to happen. It's let me give you an example. This is Lisa's backyard where she grew up. She used to play in that creek. This is behind her house where she grew up. When I go out to see her parents, her dad just died this past spring. Her mom is kind of hanging on, but still very faithful Christian. But it's hard to go to that house. It's the only house Lisa knew. It's where I went to pick her up for dates. It's where we spent many Christmases, and seeing that creek back there that she used to play in. So it's bittersweet. It's kind of like when I come out here and I enjoy the desert, but then I look behind Holiday Inn Express. It's just grief triggers a lot of stuff. I found that grief and OCD really go well together, and it'll do some things with your mind. You will ruminate on what you could have done differently. That'll drive you crazy. You'll have obsessional thoughts related to being responsible for the loss. You shouldn't be, but you will. Some people like to avoid reminders of the loss. That's impossible. That you're going to have to embrace them. I found the best way to handle grief is to jump into it and let it pour over you. As Lisa used to say, if you don't deal with it, it'll deal with you. And you just have to accept it. Reviewing past actions, attempting to undo perceived wrongs, we can't do anything about that. Dwelling on mistakes or engaging in behaviors to punish ourselves. Like the old monks used to, take the whips and hit themselves, and they thought, this will show God that, I'm sorry. We can't do that. Here's an OCD item that I have. Whenever you're watching a movie, a program on cable, you can hit the info button and see when it first aired. I do that on every program I watch to see where Lisa and I were in life when that first came out. I do it every time. I try to stop. It's OCD. I can't help it. I'll hit it. In fact, now I know when something comes up, I've probably seen it before, I can just about tell you the date, the year for almost anything I've ever watched. One time I hit it, and it was a program, an old one, that aired the day she was born. But then I'm hitting it again. This is Ed Sheeran. He is a pop musical guy from England. And he was asked to perform on the anniversary of Elvis's birthday a few years ago. He was asked to perform I Can't Help Falling in Love with You. And that was kind of Lisa and I's little love song. My sister sang it at our wedding. And I've never heard anybody sing it to where I was satisfied, except for Elvis. Anyone else singing it, I'm sorry, you tried. It's just not the same. So I'm watching this special, and this is just a few months after Lisa had passed away. And so Ed starts the song. He's got these beautiful kids backing him up behind him, and he's got that English accent, and he's singing it real slow. And when he starts off, wise men, I thought, Ed, this is not going to fly, buddy. And it was unbelievable to me. He sang it real slow intentionally and had that English accent, and I started bawling. Now here's the OCD. I then rewound and played it back and watched it again and bawled all the way through it again. I then hit the rewind button and watched it again and cried all 3 times. Why? I don't know. I don't know. I guess it's about allowing the grief to pour over you. I don't know. But it's going to hit you at different times out of the blue. Shortly after Lisa died, she was a great cook and loved her food and just was an incredible cook. And so I've never cooked, but I had to go to the store and get a few things. And I remember going to Kroger's to shop for a few groceries for the first time without her alive. It was rough going through Kroger's. It just pours over you. You know, birthdays and anniversaries and Christmases, those are givens. Those are tough. But the first time I went to the dentist after she died, and I had to fill out a form and check marital status, widower. I wasn't ready for that one. I'd never checked that. Here it comes pouring over. It happens unbelievably, constantly, and still does. You know, those of you that have not had a lot of grief, I'm sure most of you have had some at least. Everybody has to handle grief in their way. And we don't need to have the attitude, well, they need to be over that by now. There was this little boy, he lost his dad at age 12. A few weeks after his death, his uncle, his dad's brother, came over and said, did we lose it back? Said, son, it's time to grow up and be a man. It's time to stop crying, get on, go. Kid's 12. He's told you need to start moving on. In the Bible, we have record where they mourned 30 days, 40 days, 70 days. And at work, if you lose a spouse, they might give you week, sometimes it's 3 days. You lose your spouse, and you're supposed to be back in 3 days. So the Bible people kind of understood that a little bit better, I think, than we do. How can you help people that are in grief after they've had a great loss? And again, it doesn't have to be just a death, but that's kind of what I'm going to address for a second. Don't say, call me if there's anything I can do for you. They're never going to call. You just got to show up and be a little intrusive. Maybe show up and cut their yard, clean their house, whatever. This lady here is Betty Fort. She's a member of our congregation. And Betty came up to me after Lisa's death and said, I don't want you to call me and tell me something I can do to help out. You're going to tell me something right now that I can do that will help out. And I went, you know, Lisa's still getting mail. And it's tough getting mail for somebody that's not there. I said, could you call these places and get it discontinued? You know, because, you know, she had subscriptions to places and things like that. And so she said, yep. And so every week at church, I'd bring her Lisa's mail. And she would go home, and that week, she's retired, she'd call those companies, those locations, and tell them what had happened. Sometimes she would get this response, ma'am, he's going to have to call. We cannot have a third party do that. And she would go, listen, he just lost his wife. He cannot call you. And if you don't discontinue this, I'm going over your head. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I mean, if you knew her, you could see they immediately backed down. And she stopped it. You know, you still get some things that cannot even be stopped. You know, they're going to come in. Publisher clearinghouse. But you just do stuff. The first night I had to spend at home alone after she had passed away. And boy, I knew it was coming. You know, it's coming. And a good friend of mine said, do you want me to spend the night here? And at first I thought, well, that's dumb. You don't have to do that. And then I went, well, maybe so. And I went, no, I'm good. Well, the next morning I wake up, and I don't know if it's him or somebody had broken into our home and had coffee and bagels on the counter. I don't know who it was. But I'm going to go back through that security cam. I'm going to get somebody arrested that broke into my home during that time. But I mean, I don't know who it was. I don't know. This verse here is a tough one for those of us who have lost a spouse. You've heard it before. For in the resurrection, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven. Notice it doesn't say we become angels, it says we are like angels. I am not married to her anymore. That kills me. Now, we do see the wisdom of that. We have a man at our church, he passed away at 102. He survived 3 wives. Well, if this isn't the case, all right, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, who's going to be the one for eternity here? Are we going to have a Mormon deal? What's the deal here? So you see the wisdom. And I know when we get over there, this verse will not bother me. But it ticks me off on this side. I just hate the thought of it. It bothers me a lot. But I get the wisdom. And I'm sure when Lisa got there, it didn't bother her either. I picture them saying, "Oh, you're not married to Mike anymore." And go, "Yeah," I picture her, laughing and flying off, That's what I picture her doing. I get real OCD about my grandkids. Because I know they're not going to grow up with her. And that kills me. Here's another OCD tied with that. At our church, recently we've had some couples that have been married a long time. And so we want to congratulate Charles and Joyce Johnson, 65 years of marriage. Instead of me rejoicing at that, you know what I do? I start adding the years from my marriage when I lost Lisa to theirs. I do the math and see how many years I didn't get that they did. Now, it's not that I wish they went through the same thing as me. I'm glad they're still living. I just have this jealousy, this OCD. I immediately do the math every time. Seeing on Facebook, we just celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary. 14. They got 14 more than me. But it works the other way too. A lady lost her husband. She was a little bit older than me and Lisa. And I was telling her that, I was asking how old she was and her husband. And I did the math real quickly and I went, oh, Lisa would have 13 more years if she could have lived as long as her husband did. And he passed away. And she asked me, she said, how many years were y'all married? I said 36. She said, we were married 9. See, it works the other way too. There's somebody else probably doing the OCD over you over stuff. But it is tough for me to think about them growing up without her. As David mentioned in the intro, I started coaching my grandchildren. And that's been a blessing. That probably wouldn't have happened had she lived. I would probably still be coaching high school. But I still wish she hadn't have died, and I was not coaching them. I wish somebody else had coached them, but that's I went to that. And this is Maddie. She's a ball player. This is her. She's at a boys' camp here, and she will take the ball off of you if you're not very good, steal it, and not leave any change. She is ruthless. And but just she's a daddy's girl, a granddaddy's girl, and still very girly. But in basketball, she is. We can't get her to smile out there. It's just serious business. She won't ever. She's just like this. But her and Lisa were real close. The problem was she died when Maddie was only 4, so she doesn't remember much. I said, what do you remember about Granny? And she said, I remember she showed me how to break an egg and some things about cooking. She remembers that. And the other day, I was bringing her home and I said, bye, hon. And she always tells me she loves me, whether we talk live or, when she's getting out of the truck or over the phone. And I said, you're my favorite girl. And she said, except for Granny. And just, yeah. Because she knows how much in love. And I hate it, but maybe something will happen in their brain from when they did lose her that will do something in their life that will be good. I don't know. Talk about grief. Could the Kennedys hold some seminars on grief? You may not have known, those of you that are not quite as old as some of us that remember all this stuff. Little John there, saluting his dad's casket as it went by. One of the most, I think, emotionally impact photos in American history. Just really sent the country into even more tears. Did you know that was his birthday? That was little John's birthday when that happened. Just, that's the way life is. That's the way grief is. That's the way tears are. The Bible says God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. Some of you may have been like me. I used to never cry. I just about have to lose a leg to cry. Now I cry all the time. And it doesn't take much. It does not take much. When Lisa passed away, we had a lot of medical equipment like electric wheelchairs and walkers and things that we used to assist her. And her sister, the one that's going to die in a few years later after that, got as much stuff as she could out of my home. We loaded up in the handicapped van that I had to purchase, and I got it out of there. I had to take some of it to the little town we got married in. And I took it there, and as they took the stuff out of the van, and I was going to be putting that van up for sale that day, as they took away her wheelchair, I started crying. Even though it helped her, it was just this horrible reminder of what her condition was. Had a good friend of mine put a lot of grab bars in the bathroom. My son had a friend in construction, and they came over and said, we're going to remodel your mom's bathroom. It's probably $15,000. They did it for nothing. And my friend came over and put up a lot of grab bars for Lisa. That's the only reminder I didn't get rid of, because I knew I'm going to need those. And I'm right. I'm needing those. So those I'm okay with. But I took all that stuff up to our little town in Laverne, Tennessee. And I had to go by our old church building that we started our marriage in, where our kids were born, and just lost it. Just seeing that church building, I just lost it. It just pours over you that way, just incredibly. We don't lose heart, though. Though our outer self is wasting away, our inner self is being renewed day by day. For this light momentary affliction is preparing for us an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison. I read a story years ago about a young, I still remember his name, out in California, a young boy about 16 named Jason Gaze. And Jason had been in hospitals more than he had been out. He would die when he was about 18 and 19. And a Christian magazine did an article on him. And they interviewed him and they asked, do you feel like God has ripped you off? Because he was in the hospital more than he was out. This kid's 16 years old. He said, no. But if he did, he's got all eternity to make it up to me. He's 16. That's a different way of thinking. Biblical. That's kind of where we're supposed to be. Right now, if God said to Lee, and it does blow me away to think about, while we were driving over here, did God talk to Jesus? I mean, did Lisa talk to Jesus this morning? I don't know how it works up there. Did she say hey to the apostles when they were having, I don't know, do they have like a national anthem every morning? They fly heaven's flag up there. I don't know. I don't know how that works. But what did she do this morning? But I pictured God saying to her, Lisa, I'm sorry you had to go through the ALS. And I picture her going, oh yeah, I forgot about that. How long did Lisa have ALS compared to eternity? That much. Now for me, it's long. It doesn't stop. But for her, that quick. I think that's how we're going to feel. My little grandson, the day after, day after we buried her, said, "Pop," he was 7. He said, "Pop, when I get to heaven, I want to ask God why He let ALS happen." And I said, "Mason, I'm probably going to ask Him that too." But later, looking at this verse, I bet we don't ask those questions. I bet we get there and go, "Oh, everything's good, we're good." And that's kind of what we have to hold on to. We may not have it all hunky-dory now, but we are one day. Let me say one thing about grief and losing people, and then we're going to stay on schedule real good. Some of you may get comfort out of thinking about your loved one looking down on you. Now this is my personal theology. I think it's somewhat based on Scripture, but again, I don't know. I do not want Lisa looking down on me. I hope she's not. That doesn't make sense to me. That if our loved ones are with the Lord in paradise, in a perfect environment, how is looking down on earth and seeing the horrible things happen, how is that paradise? That doesn't make sense for her to look down and see people crying. I mean, again, if you get some kind of comfort out of that, okay. I think we need God looking down on us. I don't want my loved ones. I mean, what if you died and had a loved one killed in 9/11? And you're up in paradise with the Lord and you see planes flying into the building where your kid is. And that's paradise? That's just never made sense to me. And I know some people get comfort out of that. I don't want Lisa looking down here and seeing that. Or think about this. Let's go back to Mr. Hubert, the guy that lost 3 wives. His first wife's up in heaven, and he's getting remarried. It's pretty quick, wasn't it, Bubba? I mean, I just, again, I don't know how it works. That just doesn't make sense to me. When we do lose, let's remember this. I don't understand God. Don't let what you don't understand about God ruin what you do understand about God. We do understand some things about God. If we're not careful, we'll let tragedies and grief drive us away because we don't get it. We're not going to. How do we get the mind of God? I barely got through high school with, math and science. Those things killed me. Some people, kids are vying for valedictorian, salutatorian. I never battled anyone over an academic scholarship. In high school, I majored in lunch and PE. I was all state my senior year. So, I'm pretty dumb, and I'm expected to understand the mind of Almighty, and I'm this dumb kid from Tennessee? I mean, that's a little arrogant, that you're going to dump God because you don't get everything. And where are you going to go? I think it's okay to question God. I think He gets that. That's not understanding God. That's where I'm at. Don't go there, though. Don't go there. I still don't get it. She was so effective for God. She's the best person I've ever known. Her loss has made me dumber because she was my sounding board. Whether it was coaching or church or school, I would go to her and I'd say, "Lisa, I think I'm going to do such and such and such." She would go, "Well, have you ever thought about blah, blah, blah?" And I'd go, "That's what I'm going to do." I would do the exact opposite based on her counseling. Now I don't have that. So now I'm bumping into trees, wandering into traffic. So that's just been tough that I'm now even dumber than I was because I don't have her. I don't get that. I don't understand why my grandkids' other grandparents, they're still healthy, alive, and thriving, and why couldn't they have it on both sides? I don't get it. But I really believe that our present sufferings are not worth compared with the glory that we'll receive. There's an old Indian proverb, and I think this is really powerful. Even a limping man is moving forward. We're limping. We're limping. But just keep moving forward. We can limp together. We can limp together. Well, let's stop right there. Are we ahead? Is that possible? Or are we behind? What do we do here? I was going to do this theological illustration, but I'll wait till the next time maybe. Okay, here we go. Oh my goodness. Oh no, we're behind. Okay, take a break. All right.